So I watched Stan Lee documentary, which is available on Disney Plus. I grew up as a neutral in the DC versus Marvel debate, and I always enjoyed the best of both worlds myself. But if I could be swayed one way or the other, then I would probably say I'm a little bit more of a Marvel man at heart. Growing up reading Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America, and of course the X-Men, as I previously mentioned on one of our older episodes. I was always amazed how Stan Lee seemed to be mentioned more than anyone else at Marvel. He was always linked with everything that came through Marvel, and I always thought of him as this legendary figure. Yeah. And this doc goes some way to explain how that happened, but it's clearly biased in Lee's corner. They sadly chose to visually show Lee's early years and career at Marvel as presented in these dioramas. I don't know if you've seen any of the footage of this, but it's a really odd choice. It's very clever, very lovingly created. But I feel like they're really missing opportunities to instead of use the obvious visual style of comic panels. That would just seem like the obvious way. So
that's not what you mean. I thought you meant like comic panels, but just dioramas as in models, or what? That's awful. So Why have they done that?
They do a bit of his story, and they go and zoom in on his family as his where his upbringing as a child of Eastern European descent, and you see his mother and father, but they're all diorama models, and it's like I say, it's all very lovely done.
Oh God, I've just seen a picture of it. It looks so fucking weird.
So weird.
Why have they done that?
Who knows?
I'm going to drop an image in the chat.
Okay. I'm worried now.
But he was
like
originally
live reaction. It looks like there's been skill put in there, but it's just really fucking weird.
Oh no! It looks like they cut scenes from like Theme Hospital or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's shite.
But he was originally christened Stan Lee Martin Lieber, and Stan Lee was his pen name, comprising half of his first name, half of his surname. His life could have taken on a different direction if he kept his original first job, working in a trouser factory. But the Great Depression meant that he lost his job and went looking elsewhere. And he landed a role as a runner at Timely Comics, which eventually rose through the ranks there. And of course, it became renamed as Marvel. He was noted as being pretty much the primary creative leader for 2 decades, leading its expansion from a small division of publishing houses to a multimedia corporation that dominated the comics and film industries. And in collaboration with others at Marvel, particularly co-writers and artists Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, he obviously co-created iconic characters such as Spider-Man, the X-Men, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, Ant-Man, etc., etc. This is where the film takes on a murky approach, because it's highlighted Lee as the creator of the iconic characters already mentioned. Where
what about Jack
other
Kirby?
Reports both state that Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko were very unhappy with Lee taking almost most of the sole credit for the creations. I personally would like to have seen this film dive into this, but it's clearly almost like a love letter approach to Lee and his life at Marvel. It also skips the reference period in the movie when Marvel was sold, 1986. And there's no mention of the mass exodus of artists like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee.
Oh, when they all went to Image?
When they went on to launch the hugely successful Image Comics.
So is it just a puff piece?
Pretty much. There's no mention of Marvel facing bankruptcy either. And the film briefly mentions Lee's sadness when Marvel was eventually sold. And then it all of a sudden jumps to Disney's ownership. So it cuts out all of this happening. And it just features... Sorry, go on.
Does it delve into any of like the dodgy shit that happened to him in his last years with like his family and all that, like bilking him for money?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Because I think that's an important part of the Stan Lee thing, because for all he was such a lovely guy, people took advantage of him through his entire career.
If he went for his wife,
elderly abuse,
he'd be fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it basically just jumps to Disney's ownership and features the legacy of Lee and how he was offered cameos in all the majority of the latest films.
So it's an hour and a half long advert.
Yeah, the film is narrated by Lee throughout, blending his own tale and then clips of footage from interviews and various public appearances. So it's his voice throughout, and then there's the odd...
Did they mention? I mean, you can spoil it for me. Did they mention where they silently sacked him, and said, "But we've got you an ambassador role. Are you happy?"
Yeah. Again, they kind of touch upon that, but don't. Again,
we're going to pretend that you're the boss of Marvel, but you're not.
Yeah. So I think if you're either new if you're new to comics and the man Stan Lee, or if you're a lifelong fan, then it's a good starting point to see a little bit behind the legendary figure. But you just need to remember that this is purely a one-sided look at the man, and I'd like to. I assume at some point somebody's going to do a proper documentary on.
There is
like you say, there's so much more to the tale.
There's a biography. I Am Stan Lee, and that is
that's great.
And all. That's warts and all. How he were abused, and how he had a long-time girlfriend that used to kick him about and stuff, and how when like someone came up to him and went, "I've drawn a character," and he was like, "Well, call him Ant-Man." And that's how he got the credit on his name. So he was a bit of a twat as well. You know what I mean? I created him. I named him.
And they kind of just make him. He gives project ideas to the artist. They draw it. They give it to him. Then he writes the stories. And
he is a fantastic
Marvel method,
writer.
They called it. Yeah.
Some of his arcs are some of the best.
Absolutely, and he's obviously been involved with it. But I just think, with obviously the side stories about how the artists that were involved
they suffered massively,
of how they were represented, I think it would be much better to have a proper documentary where that's looked into a little bit more and celebrate him as well. But this is just literally a celebratory piece, and like you say, it's almost like a promo in a way. It was interesting enough, but
I probably will watch it and I'll scream at the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's same with the DC. There's a DC book about the it's called Detective Comics, and it's how it was created and how unlitigious it used to be back in the day when Marvel just came up and went, we're having that. Then there's nothing you can do about it. It's so clever, but you've got to change the name of this character. You've got to change the name of this because, like Captain Marvel and do you know Shazam was called Captain Marvel, that kind of thing. It's such a fascinating thing as well. It's a shame it's just a puppet.